I'm Allendale's chief meteorologist Ryan Martin with a look at your midday forecast update. Surface analysis shows that we haven't really changed much in the past 4 to 5 hours from what we saw earlier in the day. Still plenty of cloud cover across the middle of the country, Nebraska, back into Colorado, Texas, some cloud cover across Oklahoma. And then we have these clouds actually expanding eastward across Missouri, southern Illinois, southern Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee. You get the idea. There's actually some moisture breaking out, scattered light rain shower action along the bottom edge of the high that's moving across the eastern United States and up into eastern Canada. The high is centered over southeastern parts of Ontario with a secondary high in northern Indiana. And so down on the leading edge of that is where we're seeing moisture, central southern Indiana and back into eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee. It's not big time, but it is a little bit of moisture. And, with the cloud cover the way it's been a fairly easy thing to develop. As we go forward, there's really not much new outside of the same old arguments I've been making all week with regard to the weather. That is, yes, we've got milder air coming for parts of the country. I'm still looking for temperatures to be above normal over the southern plains, central plains into eastern Colorado. I'm looking for temperatures to be normal to above down in the deep south. However, areas that I still feel are going to not measure up to the warming hype, is going to be from the northern plains, far northern plains, across the upper Midwest, and then down into the central eastern Corn Belt and the eastern quarter to third of the country. That's where I think we're going to be seeing cold air hold. Still looking at a fairly significant trough, trying to dig in on almost every single one of the international models. The lone holdout seems to be the United States medium range forecast model. Just continues to try and keep warmer air in here. The GFS is the model we're talking about, keeping warmer air in here for a good shot of the country. And I think that's where we're running into some differences on precipitation as well. With the warmer air, the American model wants to bring more shower and thunderstorm-based action in here. And the European and other international models are saying, yeah, okay, there's going to be fronts here, but precipitation is going to be lighter because of the cool air. We just can't hold as much moisture to start with. So that's the big talking points and the big sticking points in the forecast as we go forward. The latest model run, the latest GFS run that came out a little bit earlier today, continues to show good moisture. And you know what? The European follows it. Good moisture coming out of the central plains and across the Corn Belt as we go from tomorrow morning right on through Saturday. Looking at this moisture probably spreading a bit farther north. I like this all the way up to I-80 now. And it's not just because the models are kind of going this route. It just really looks like we're going to see a better south push of the moisture. Right now, I'd say most of the region is going to be a half an inch or less. By region, I mean Corn Belt. Most of the Corn Belt is going to be half an inch or less, but I will open a range that could include some 3/4 inch rain totals over Ohio and into east central Indiana. Looks like this thing will be developing as it goes there. And then back into the central plains, Kansas, northern Oklahoma, we can easily see half to 3/4 inch rain totals overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning. We're going to follow that up with probably a little bit of a cooler shot as we finish the weekend, but then the mild air in the plains will try and expand eastward. The U.S. model has been very slow to recognize a deep trough that wants to dig in for the second half of next week. International models have been all over it. The latest run of the American does show more of a trough, but it's still not there yet. So we're looking at temperatures to be normal to below over the central eastern Corn Belt, above back off to the west like we've been talking. And the next precipitation event will likely try and develop then as we go into the 13th, 14th, 15th. What's interesting here is it really looks like it wants to be something that gets the bulk of its action or going on the backside of a surface high. So we're seeing a surface high settle across portions of the deep south as we go into the 13th and 14th. And then up the back side of that, we're starting to see moisture break out in Texas, in Oklahoma. To me, that's not the best scenario or the best setup for getting a good front going. So we'll have to see if the models change their tone on this a little bit. The European model has more of a frontal boundary, more frontogenesis, developing of a front in here, and the GFS relies more on backside moisture. But in any case, we're looking for a decent chance of moisture there as we head toward mid-month. And then the big question is how fast does it move through? I'm looking at it being a 2 to 3 day event, moving through and being done. There is a thought process out there that maybe that low tries to cut off. I'm watching upstream, seeing when we can see storm systems really start to develop better in the Gulf of Alaska. I'm actually seeing one right now around the 19th and 20th. Keep in mind, as we've said in our online write-up, the West Coast areas and the western United States will see its atmosphere pretty moist after the next 2 weeks are done, thanks to incessant rains and storm systems moving in. So if this front coming out of the Gulf of Alaska into central and northern British Columbia holds together, it's got good moisture conditions to work with in the atmosphere. This might set us up for a winter storm event trying to move into the country there right close to Christmas. Of course, we don't want to promise anything, with everybody always curious about the white Christmas, but that is something I'm watching. I'm starting to see signs of maybe a pattern shift to more of a northwest to southeast kind of track, especially with our jet stream. South America, no real significant issues here, but as we kind of alluded to online this morning, models are a little flip-floppy when it comes to Argentina rains. I'm going to leave my forecast alone. I backed the moisture this morning off for next week to about 50% coverage from 60. I still feel the fronts are there. It's just getting the moisture to line up with the frontal timing. As somebody put earlier today talking about something else, timing is everything. And so that's what we really have to kind of zero in on for next week, is the timing of that front and timing the moisture to coincide with it. At this point, I'm still a little concerned about dryness, but not enough to completely take rain out of the forecast. I'm going to leave it be, and we'll see how various models want to play with this in the days ahead. That's what we've got in your forecast at midday. Have a great rest of your afternoon. If you've got any questions on the weather, give us a call at Allendale. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.